Welcome on board the Rich Planet Starship, broadcasting from somewhere high above the Earth. I'm Richard D. Hall. This week's guest served in the armed forces in the Middle East in the late 1950s. During his training, he was singled out to become part of a covert British assassination team, carrying out missions in Cyprus, Lebanon, and Egypt. So without further ado, let's activate the teleporter and get him beamed up onto the ship.
Hi, Richard.
Hiya, John. John Irwin, welcome to the Starship.
I'm pleased to be here.
Okay, now you're a fellow Geordie.
Unfortunately, yeah.
You actually worked at the same factory that I worked at when I started my apprenticeship in 1986. It was at a company called NEI Parsons, but obviously you had a life before that, which we're going to go into. I'll just fill the viewers in, John, on the basic sort of skeleton of your story, and then we're going to go into, drill down into a lot of detail as to what you were involved with. Basically, you joined the army in 1950.
I was called up from National Service.
The National Service, 1957, yeah?
That's right.
And you were in two minds about it. You were very apprehensive, etc.
Well, I was actually working at a place called Alec Muddlers as a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Served me time as a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't see me going anywhere. I was more or less what they call a grease monkey.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't learning anything.
Right.
So when my National Service papers came through the door, my mum actually encouraged us to go in the armed forces because I would see some of the world.
So just to briefly skim over it before we go into it in detail, you were singled out when you were doing some basic training in Wrexham because you kept yourself to yourself. You didn't drink, you didn't smoke, you were an athlete, you were a gymnast. You would go to the gym when all of the other troops were going to the NAFI and getting pissed. So they sort of singled you out for those particular reasons. And you were approached when you were still in the UK. You were then stationed in Cyprus. You were approached again to ask if you wanted to be part of this particular team. You were then sent in a truck to go on a particular journey on your own. You were then flagged down, and then you were then taken to a secret hangar where you received very, very specific special training, and you would periodically be taken away from the 524 company that you were in, and you would be given training at various points. So your cover was effectively that you were just an ordinary soldier in 524 company. And this went on, basically went backwards and forwards to this group for a period of 2 years?
Well, for the first, say, 4 or 5 months, I was actually being trained.
Right, you were being trained, and then it was then later in late 1958 and 59 that you did these missions in Cyprus, Lebanon, and Cairo. Yeah. So we'll come on to those missions and we'll also come on to the very specific training. So if we just start then, John, we'll start from when you left home and how you felt when you joined the army, because you were quite a it says, I've read your book, and you had a stammer when you were 18, so you were quite sort of a introverted person, would you say?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I came from an area of Baker.
Mm-hmm.
I lived near Baker,
which is part of Newcastle.
Yeah, which is the east end of Newcastle. Mm-hmm. And I left school, we left Baker area to move down to Benton when I was about 12.
Right.
And we moved into a house that had electricity,
mm-hmm.
And like you said, had water in the house, where the other house didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was water was in the backyard. We didn't have electricity. We just had the gas mantle.
Mm-hmm.
So moving into this house was like moving into a palace for me, for all of it.
Yeah.
So I went from there, from the Raby Street School in Baker down to Benton, and I went from Benton into the other school, which was Forest Hall School.
Mm-hmm.
I was only there 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I left there when I was 14 and went to there. My first job was on a farm,
mm-hmm.
Holy Stone Farm.
Right.
From there, like I said, I was there for about 1.5 years, 2 years on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Decided it wasn't for me working on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the opportunity to possibly serve my time at Alec Muddlers on Great North Road, next to the old ground stadium.
What, mechanics?
Yeah, it was a garage.
A garage?
Yeah. Found I was really wasting my time there. I wasn't.
Yeah.
being taught anything, you
Right.
see. My papers came for national service,
Right.
and that's when my mum encouraged us to get away and learn something about life and see some
Yeah.
of the
So
world.
you were 18 years old, 1957.
So I was 17 then,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was 17.
Uh-huh.
So I left the garage then, and I went to actually work for the Tyrestar factory
Right.
on the machines there
Right.
until my documents came through.
Okay.
So, you know, the normal procedure, you go for your medical. When you pass your medical, then they send for you.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
that's
just read this line from the book.
Yeah.
This is when you're leaving home for the first
That's
time,
right.
and it says, I was both excited and terrified. I had never been away from home or even out of Newcastle before, and thought that crossing the Tyne was like going abroad.
Yeah.
This is John's book, by the way, The 16, which describes the group that you were in, and basically it's the whole story in there, which what I find intriguing is that you left some key parts out because you felt that people might not believe those sections which were to do
It's
with your
hard to
training.
believe what's in there now. So,
Right.
yeah.
So you got down to Wrexham for your basic training, and take it from
Wrexham,
there, John.
North Wales, yeah.
Yeah, take it from there.
Well, like I say, when all the lads used to go down to the nappy, I used to go down to the gym, and I just practiced on the pommel horse and in the parallel bars and what have you. And then I was trying to do the exercise on the pommel horse, and I was bashing my knees on the pommel horse. And the sergeant came along and he said, he showed us how to do it. And then he asked if I wanted to do something more exciting, you know, after I finished my basic training. Like I said, I had no idea what he was talking about.
But I think in your book you said this sergeant, you didn't know him. He came from nowhere. Is that right?
He came from nowhere, yeah.
Right. So you weren't. That was the only time you met him when he approached you. He wasn't part of your 524 company, or
Well, I have no idea who he was.
Right.
I just know he was a sergeant, and people do come out and in the gym all the time. So,
Right.
you know, it wasn't a surprise to see someone there.
Right.
Anyway, to cut a long story short, like he said, would I like to do something more exciting, you know, other than what that they had planned for us? And I
Right.
didn't know what they had planned for us, like, you know.
Right.
So that was the last I heard of it. I heard no more until we went to Stratford and Avon. That was after the 3 weeks basic training, or
Right.
5 weeks basic. Then there was an emergency on. There was 18,000 troops had to go out to the Middle East.
Right.
Some to Beirut, Lebanon, and places like that, you know.
So this is when 1957.
1950, late 50, yeah, 57.
Late
yeah.
57.
Yeah. And so next minute I knew we were all taken down to the medical centre, getting all our jobs and what have you, given work kit. Then we were all taken down to Heathrow Airport, all found ourselves on these old decoders, on way to the Middle East. And I thought I was on my way to Beirut for about an hour when we had engine trouble. One of the engines had actually caught fire,
Right.
and they put it out, you see. And they said, oh, we'll have to land at Malta.
Right.
So when I got to Malta,
And you didn't know where Malta was, did you?
I had no idea. No, I didn't know
never
what
heard
gate
of
it was. No, Malta. We landed in Malta. We're there for a couple of hours, waiting to get another plane. And new orders came. So now I was going to Cyprus instead of,
Right.
you know. We first landed in Nicosia. We were taken to Nicosia to a camp there. But anyway, we went from there to Episcopi, down near the beach. And that's when I did a week's work. We were digging out latrines and putting
You were in
tents.
the Pioneer Corps,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
are the sort of do the dirty work,
Yeah.
the digging and
That's right. I didn't put in
manual
for that.
work.
I was forced into it.
right, right,
So when they're short of people in sort of logistics,
Yeah.
you're forced into it. So anyway, again, the weekend came and they said, oh, we're allowed to go down to the beach, which is a military beach.
yeah,
One of us had to carry a rifle,
Right.
where the other two went off enjoying themselves. So when we got down on the beach, it was red hot, and I sat there. I just lay there on the beach on these blankets we had, and two pals of mine, they went off swimming, and that's when I was approached again. this guy came over.
Is this a different guy? It's the same guy?
No, it's a different guy.
Different guy.
Different guy altogether.
So
And he sort of knelt down to say where I was, and I had these dark glasses on, like little motorbike glasses sort of thing,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
the plastic ones.
Uh-huh.
And I just saw the shadow over us, and I couldn't really make him out properly. And he said, he mentioned his name, my name's Ken, like, you were approached in Wrexham, North Wales. Went something like that, you know. And I said, oh yeah, I remember. You know, I was really surprised.
Right.
I forgot all about it.
Right.
It's, you know, I hadn't entered my mind. And he says, well, are you still up for this? You know, would you like to go into some specialised training? I said, well, I don't want to do what I've been doing, taking bloody holes and, you know, humping stuff about. He says, well, just leave that with us, you see.
Right.
And that's when my mates came out of the sea and came rushing back up to us, you know.
Yeah.
And they were surprised. They were asking me who he was, because I'd heard him talking. So who's that guy? He must be an officer with a voice like that, you know.
Yes. Yes.
So and that's when it all started. When I went back to camp, I was waiting for something to happen. Nothing happened for about a week. And then one morning on parade, I was singled out, and they sent us off to 518 company, which was in the officers' mess, as a waiter. I thought this kind of be the exciting job I was going to get, you see.
Right.
So anyway, and as I said, I used to stammer. So I ended up as head waiter.
Right.
I had to stand at the head of the table, rhyming off the menus, you see. And like I say, after a while, the stammer stopped. And I was just starting to get settled in, because it was a good job. I was getting,
compared to what you were doing.
Oh yeah, I was getting all the meals I wanted, whatever I wanted from you.
Yeah.
You know, it was a cushy number.
Uh-huh.
And then, like I said, when I was really starting to get into it, and I thought, this is great, this. You know, I don't mind doing another 18 months of this. On the Monday morning, the sergeant of the officers' mess told us to beat it. I said, what do you mean, beat it? He says, go back to camp. You're no longer with us. I said, look, I've done all this training. Now, why have I done all this training? What's it for? And you know, I'm pretty good at it. You said it yourself, and they said, yeah, you're good at it, but you're leaving.
Right.
Full stop. So I left on the Monday morning again. I was on parade. I was told my orders was to get a truck, take a truck and go out to somewhere near Limassol.
Right. On your own.
On my own, which is unheard of.
Right.
Anybody who's out in the Middle East will tell you, you always went in pairs. You always had a rifle with you. I mean, not a rifle with it, but and I went in a truck.
Right.
Because I passed my test when I was 17, you know. Anyway, I drove off. I mean, I didn't know the place.
Right.
I hardly knew it. So they gave us a map and said, this is the journey.
Right.
So there was only one main road from there up to Limassol. And I got flagged down.
Right.
All the stories they told were not to stop for anybody, and, you know, because it could be terrorists and want your truck and whatever. So I actually drove by this guy that was waving with a Land Rover, with a Jeep, I should say. Punches, or whatever they're called. And he was waving, and as I went past him, I did recognise the guy as the guy who saw us on the beach. So I stopped and looked back, and he came down towards us, and that was the beginning. Took us on the Jeep, took us to leave the truck where it was, and I thought, this is kind of be right.
Yeah.
Just leaving the truck in the middle of nowhere, you know. And then we went off. He took us through to the base of the Trudis Mountains, where eventually, after about 20 minutes, we came across this hangar, which was again at the base of the mountains. It looked like an aeroplane hangar. You could get small aircraft in it. It had in the front of it was concrete, but the concrete was all broken. There was lizards jumping all over the place, and grass growing through the concrete, you see. And I thought, you know, this cannot be the place, surely, because it was falling to bits.
Mhm.
But it was, so I got out of the Land Rover, went into this big steel shed, and inside is where I met the other three
The
comrades.
other three that was part of your group of 4.
Yeah, that's right, for the first time. When I got in, he slammed the door behind him, locked it. I thought, oh hell, what have I let myself in here for?
Right.
These people
Yeah.
could be anybody.
Yeah.
I had no idea. So anyway, these guys came towards us and introduced themselves to us,
Right.
and that's when it all started.
All right. So that first time you were at the hangar, how long were you there for the first time?
Well, the first time I was there for the day,
Right.
well, I was actually there for 4 days.
Right. Well,
But I thought I was there.
yeah.
They said I had to go through the one step beyond whatever
Right.
it was.
We'll come on to that. So this was the specific training that you were given, and they called it one step beyond. Okay. Now we'll come on to that later in the program,
Okay.
John. But essentially, you were given certain skills. You were shown certain, movements, etc. How to disable people. You were trained in all manner of,
Combat skills.
techniques,
Yeah.
combat skills. So you then went backwards and forwards from this hangar back to your 524 company, and
Yeah.
nobody in 524 company knew
Was aware. Yeah.
where you were going to.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, well, they were the impression I was going to an army ordnance corps up further up the road, right?
Right.
So there had to be someone within that unit
Uh-huh.
who could organise that trip.
Right.
You see, but once you left the camp, the organisation within the camp,
Mhm.
all they wanted to know that once you left, I left. I was in the hands of other people.
Right. And all of the training that you did were in the company of 3 other guys who had already been trained,
Yeah,
which you name in your book as Dynamo, Spot, and Chalky.
yeah,
And then the head guy was called Ken.
yeah,
And they were really the only people that you interfaced with throughout the entire
Yeah.
thing.
yeah.
And that group itself, you say, you couldn't come across the British Army, otherwise they would try and kill you because you didn't wear the normal army clothes, etc.
That's right. That's yeah.
Right, and then you then went on to do various missions, which we'll go on to. So we're going to take a short break now, John, but we'll go into those missions and also go into your specific training, because it is highly intriguing the methods that they use to train you. So don't go away.